Guys, it's Linda Winter with another Winter Designs project. This one is a twofer. Now, what I mean by that is it's a two-piecer. You have this piece that's a tie and this piece. One, because it's easier to put the two together, but also because you can use this by itself too, and we can modify this. So I'll show you a couple different options. But this guy here, if you followed me before, you might have seen this being pictured. So this is the Tie Me box. It's kind of a box, it's kind of a bag, it can be a bunch of different things, but we're going to tie it up. And this was the very first one that I made. And I made this and I actually took it down with these cups. It says, do what makes your heart sing. If you all have followed me, that was a saying that my mom wrote. She never said it, but it was a saying that she wrote in almost everything that she wrote note-wise. And, you know, when she would send somebody a thank you note or, you know, I'm thinking about you, do what makes your heart sing. So that's why I made this originally, was just to have this sitting at the table when we gathered together over the holidays. Do what makes your heart sing. But I thought this was a really cute little gift to put whatever in. You can fill it with goodies all by itself, candies or cookies or whatever. I tend to do a lot of candy. I don't know why. I think it's like a great little gift. Put the gift card in there too, but candies here. This is a jar of buttons from my sister-in-law, Pam. Hi, Pam. Thank you so much. I haven't used any of these because I want to keep them all. I think they're so special, but these were buttons from her mother's collection. But this is a really great way to give a gift like that too. So this little guy, we'll talk about Easter, but I did a little sneak for any of you that follow me on Facebook. My friend Jessica made one right about the same time that I was thinking about doing this, the bunny ears. You'll notice these floppy ears, they're a little bit different. I'm going to show you a couple different ways to do the ears or to do the ties or to do whatever, but this can be a bunny and we'll do a second video on that. Same thing with this guy here. I've changed the straps. This is actually pinned because I want to find a piece of ribbon that's kind of like this and show you how to do that. And then I also want you to know how to make it bigger. You can see how much bigger this one is. This is the original size. This is the original size. And you can see how much taller that is. You can use the same template because of the no-slip material. That's no-slip material that's on the back of this. This stuff grabs. So when you go to cut, no slipping, no kidding. All right, so let me actually get some of these out of the way. And we're going to do a little bit of cutting first. And let's see over here. And then in the second video, I'll show you some of the alternatives. I'm going to show you the way to do the traditional tie-me bag. And before we do that, though, I just want to show you this. If you look at the template, this is a tea towel. If you look at the template, this right here is the boxed bottom. So this part here. If you look where this is, imagine these little guys being right here. Right there. So if you wanted to do, like Easter is such a great theme, you could pick this off. I would pick that off first. Just use your snippets or seam ripper or whatever and take that ribbon off so that can be on the bottom. But these little guys would be centered right here. And I think that would be really cute. Any of you that are spoiled by our fussy cuts, you could actually trace this onto a clear plastic and do fussy cutting if you wanted to. If you know you're going to do a lot of fussy cutting, then let me know and I'll make a fussy cut template for this. There's a center mark here, so it's easy enough to fold your fabric in half. But I want to get this out of the way because you are going to see one done from this later on before we get to Easter. All right, so I've gone ahead and cut. This is my lining, and you can see this is one solid piece. Let's pull over. Where is my one? Oh gosh, I have one that's missing. I had one that I did that you can see here. There's piecing here because the fabric that I had here and the fabric I had here, I didn't have enough fabric for me to cut those pieces. So I pieced those together there. But if you wanted to do different fabrics, you could do that as well. So that's part of the reason why these are in two templates. But we're going to go ahead and show you how to lay this out on your fabric and how to cut. So I've gone ahead and used SF101. I like SF101 on both the outside and on the lining. I did do on this one SF101, and then I did the fusible fleece, the lightweight fusible fleece. I'm not crazy about it. You know, this to me it didn't give me what I wanted. So I really love fusible fleece. I think it's such a great thing, but it really didn't give me the look and the feel that I wanted. It does stand up and it does look good on camera there, but in person, I didn't feel like I needed it. So SF101 on both the outside and on the lining. We're going to place the template here, and I'm going to place this template right here. You can see there's a hash mark here and a hash mark here, and we're going to line those up basically. I want to make sure that my fabric is all, see how this is a little bit further down than this is, so I'm going to scoot this up a little bit here. And I've given myself lots of extra room to be able to cut around, but not a whole lot of waste. All right, so what we're going to do first is address this area right here. That area right there, we're not going to be able to cut in, maybe, if you don't have the 28mm rotary cutter. So I'm going to go in and just trace that around. What that allows us to do too is just go ahead and I'm going to kind of line these up, because I'm going to focus in on this, get rid of this, and then we're going to come down and cut here. Now I'm a lefty. And oh, by the way, this is my template for the ears. You can see that. If you want a template for the bunny ears, if you want this template because you think you're going to be doing bunny ear stuff, let me know. I just did it out of my old family calendar from 2003. So if you want me to make a template out of this, I'd be happy to make that for you. And Cinnamon is joining us. I don't think Cinnamon has ever come into one of our shots. So we have Cinnamon. Cinnamon is our only male kitty. So, all right, so we're back to this. So I'm lining this up, and you can see basically we're going to cut this piece here. All right, so we're going to cut. I'm going to go ahead and just cut here, and notice what I'm doing. I've got my fingers kind of branched over, and I'm going to stop here. What that allows me to do is cut the other side. When I get to there, I'm going to remove that because I don't need that anymore. And make sure before you remove it that you cut all the fabric. Okay, so now I can go ahead and cut the rest of this. I don't have to have this. If you're not comfortable with this being a two-piecer, you can tape this together while you work on this. But to me, it's just so much easier to be able to cut that piece and then manipulate all of this. I'm going to do all the straight edges first. And then we're going to go in and we're going to do some of these curves. Now, the 45mm rotary cutter doesn't like to do curves. You can see I've cut a lot of it, but not all of it. And I'm just kind of being very careful not to push down. If you push down, you're going to eat up into your mat. The 28mm does a much better job inside of there. We've cut here, we've cut here, we've cut here. So now I'm going to come down here. Cut marks allow me to go in and cut and get those corners perfectly consistent. I'm going to turn my template and come on over here. And remember, my fingers are not right in the way because I like my fingers. If you do push too hard and you jump on top of it, you're going to slice your fingers. And I don't want to hear any horror stories from any of you guys about damaging your fingers with the rotary cutter or using my template. Now, right about here, we're going to go ahead and just take our time for cutting all of that. And you can see that one did pretty well on that side. I want to grab the 28mm just so you can see, even the 28mm is not 100% perfect, but it does a much better job of getting in and getting those curves. All right, so we've got that piece cut. I'm going to go ahead and just straighten that up there, and we're going to go on to the next step. All right, we'll be right back. All right, so we've got our outside fabrics, we've got our lining fabrics. What we're going to do is sew on the outside, sew on the outside, sew on the outside, these three sides. On the lining, instead of leaving the bottom open here for our turning, I'm going to sew a little bit, leave a turning area here, finish up here, and then sew this and sew this. We're basically creating one piece and two pieces, and you'll see we're going to tuck that inside of each other. Now you can pin or clip if you want to. Sometimes your fabrics will just lay perfectly where you want them to be, so you don't need to. Most of the time, honestly, I will tell you, I don't pin or clip, but I'm going to go ahead and put in just one pin each for each of these guys here. Because we're going to be turning this area, I'm going to go ahead and put a pin, just because I think it's a good habit to get into, right like that. That lets you know that that's the area that we're going to leave for our turning. So you can turn in any way you like. I just think it makes a whole lot more sense to go ahead and turn the lining piece there. And again, SF101, SF101. I'm going to use a 1/4 inch seam allowance or so, and I'm going to use more like a 3/8 inch seam allowance here. I want to have a little bit more seam allowance for that lining because my stabilizers are both the same. I want the lining to be able to fit in nicely. All right, so we're going to, on our outside, about a 1/4 inch, and I'm just going to use the edge of my foot, and we'll back stitch when we first get started. And let me find where my pins are. We'll backstitch, and actually I have a little bit less than 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, and that's fine. Whatever it is that you're doing on your outside fabric, be consistent. And then when you get to your lining, be consistent with those 3 areas that we're sewing. Right now, all we're doing is just sewing the bottom part. In just a minute, when we finish doing these guys here, then we're going to go ahead and do our boxed bottoms. I'm going to switch from that and go to here. And if you want to use, instead of your foot, you can move your needle position. It's totally up to you. But I'm just making my seam allowance a little bit wider here. And because we're doing the box bottoms, it's not really important to backstitch, but it definitely is at the top here because that's where we're going to be joining our 2 pieces together. Now this is the side where I want to leave that little bit of an opening. So when I get to where I want to leave it open, I'm just backstitching a little bit. We're going to pop forward a couple inches, and you don't have a whole lot of space here to turn. But honestly, with this SF101, it's not that hard to turn. There's not that much fabric. All right, you have lots of choices here. You can press these seams back, you can pink them, or you can do what I do. I'm going to pop this open, and I'm just going to pull my 2 pieces together, and I'm going to turn one fabric seam one direction and the other fabric seam in the opposite direction. The first one, it doesn't matter. The second one does matter. I'll show you that in a second. Because we have the box bottom on the template, this is going to line up perfectly. This is going to line up perfectly here too. So that's one of the really beautiful things about box bottoms. If you notice, a lot of my templates are now having box bottoms. I just love doing them because they're so fast and so easy. We're going to backstitch here because this is going to be a little bit of tension, not a ton, but it's definitely going to have no more seam stitching here, so we do want to finish that off. Okay, so I said on the first one it didn't matter, but on the second one it does. So when we look to see, this is turned in this direction towards me, so when I do this one, I want to have that corner turned in the same direction. So this is going to be turned here rather than the opposite direction. Your seams in the middle should line up again because of the template, the way that the template was designed. And if you are working with the table, you all have seen me and you've heard me, this table sometimes will get caught on this. So just make sure that if you're working with the table that it doesn't get caught. Here, right here, the seam is going this way, and over here, the seam is going this way. The one underneath is going in the opposite direction. Now, you are able to, if you want, trim off all that bulk. If you need to do that, if you want to do that with fleece, you would definitely do that. SF101, I don't really feel like there's much of a need for that. All right, so on the outside fabric, same thing. I'm going to grab and line up those seams in the middle there. They're going to line up nicely because of the boxed corners on the template. Now we're going to use a smaller seam allowance here just like we did on those 3 sides. So back stitching here. And we'll go over to the next side. I like to stick my hand inside here from the top and then pull my bottoms together. And again, I'm looking to see that this fabric is going this way. So I'm going to turn and work from the bottom side and just make sure that my seam is going in the opposite direction. We're going to start at the corner again and my smaller seam allowance, back stitching. All right, now we're going to go to the table and pop this out so we can see what this looks like from the right sides out. Push out those corners nicely. And if you've got a ham, when it comes to pressing, I'll pull over some of the smaller hams and show you the ones I like. All right, so we have got the outside fabric. You can see this part is the tie, and here's our other tie. There's our seams. All right, so we've got our lining. We're going to stick the outside fabric inside the lining, matching up our seams. So I'm just going to push down, and we're going to pin at the seams. I'm just going to pin to the left of the seam first, and then we'll come back and address those seams, the options that we have there. Push this other side down in, and just pin to, for me, the left. You can pin either way. And again, you can, if you want to, press those seams open. You can use the stiletto and press the seams open if you like, or you can do what I'm going to be doing, and that's just pushing one seam to one side and the other seam to the other side. And remember here, this is where we've got the lining that has the wider seam allowance, and then my outer fabric has that narrower seam allowance. I'm pinning in both of those right now just to make sure that both are going in that same opposite direction. All right, so I'm going to turn this way, and I'm going to move that pin in the one direction, and I'm going to pin in the opposite direction. And we'll make sure that those seams are lined up. And I've got a rusty pin that's grabbing the fabric. All right, so now we're going to start to move around. And again, you can pin or clip if you want. And the cool thing about this design is we're not having to do a whole lot of fancy stuff with our straps. These ties are going to be really easy for us to address. All right, so I pinned on one side, I pinned on the other. We're going to start to pin the straps. Now I want to talk about the straps and the way this was designed and your options that you have. Right now the straps are straight, so when you finish at the top, when you tie these together, you can see it's a nice straight edge. I'm going to pull over samples in just a minute and show you a couple options that are here. All right, and you notice too, I've got these pins going this way. When I get over here, those pins will be gone, but I'm going to go ahead and pin just along the straighter edge here. And Cole has joined us on the table, but right now we've got her out of camera, so I think we're okay. Cole feels the need every now and then to kind of just say, hey, I'm the dominant kitty here, give me some attention. So we're pinning. And we're pinning, and let's see if we can, nope. Okay, and then she has to, of course, sit on top of what we're doing. And it's amazing. You all have seen, if you followed me on Facebook, you've seen the pictures where I show her sitting in some crazy place that just could not be comfortable at all, but it is. All right, so I want to go back and repin some of these when I was trying to avoid Cole. You can see, you know, if you have cats, if you have dogs, you know how it is. They want attention when they want attention. So, all right, so I'm going to put a couple pins in here, and then I'm going to pull over some samples, and we're going to address our options that we have for the straps. And you can see they're still not lining up, and that's okay. I'm probably down below. You know, the things we try to hide from you when we're on camera, you know, when kitties are popping up and we think, okay, she's not in camera, I think we're all right. All right, so I want to pull over. This is a sample that has the straight edge here. So that's basically what we have with the template. So there's that. Then I have one that's got a curved edge, and I'll show you how to do that. And then I have one that has a little bit wider curved edge, and I'll show you how to do that too. So you've got options when it comes to the straps. It's not like it makes a huge difference, but hey, you know, why not play around with them and see what it is you like? All right, so if you wanted the straight that we've got here, you're good to go. If you wanted to do the curve, then basically you're going to, on your mat, look to see how much of a curve do I want. And you'll also want to just put a mark where the center is. Right about here is where my center is. You can fold it in half. And you could say from here to here, draw a straight line like that. You could draw a straight line like that. You could grab the template and come over and cut, you know, based on if you put a mark here. If you wanted to do that, you can cut that side and then basically do the same thing here. You can, if you wanted to do that, then basically look to see I've got my 2 inches here at 1 inch right there. We can bring in a mark there, and you could do a curve if you wanted to do that. You decide. You can see here how this doesn't line up with that. So cut one side, fold it in half, and then cut the other side, or fold the two together and cut together if you want to. Or you could do what I did, was at the sewing machine, you just stitch. You just stitch here, or you stitch straight, and you stitch straight, and you trim off the excess. Does it matter? I don't know, what style do you like? Do you like the straight edge? Do you want to get that finished quickly? You know, the other thing you could do is you could do at an angle like this if you wanted to do. So you've got that at an angle. You could do this, do it at an angle. You know, it's really up to you. I'm going to do straight just like we have here. We're going to start stitching here and we're going to stitch all the way around. 1/4 inch seam allowance is what I recommend just because our straps are, to me, the right width to be at to be able to tie nicely, but you can always do thinner too. All right, I'm going to get my pin cushion over here and we're going to stitch. And again, you decide if you want to pin or if you just want to throw caution to the wind and start sewing. Sometimes I just throw caution to the wind and start sewing. All right, so I've gone through the seam that we have there. And you've got a lot of bulk, and if you have a machine that allows you to take your arm off, you can do that and see if you like what that gives you. It's totally up to you. I'm going to move this pin in the opposite direction, and there's some of Cole's fur that we've got in there. There's fur. If you have cats, if you have dogs, and you know, fur is just a flavor or just a seasoning that we add to basically everything. So, and I want to make sure that Cole is good where she is. So I've got one eye on her and one eye on what I'm doing too. So, and I know you all have shared, some of you have shared the silly pictures of your kitties doing all kinds of silly things, and love seeing those. My kitties are going to be wherever it is that I am because they want to be a part of the process. So, all right, so we're working on the strap. And as I said, this is really an easy project where we're not having to do any of the turning and folding and pressing and lining up. If you watched my last video that I filmed where I showed how to do the project where it was the knot bag, but my strap direction that I did was different than most of the other strap directions. You know, I like to do a really easy, really quick project, and that's exactly what this is. I think this is a great gift for you to give stuffed with something. The something is what makes this, to me, really special. Are you going to make brownies? Are you going to make some of your favorite, you know, whatever kind of crunch, you know, or some kind of mix that you make? If you do those mixes in the jars, you know, those would be great to put in here too. If you have a favorite cocoa or a coffee that you like to do, some kind of a mix that you have, that you make, that you're known for. Maybe it's a vinaigrette that you have all the seasonings and all they have to do is add the vinegar and oil. You know, but you've given them all of the seasonings. You know, that's the fun of doing a project like this. You put your little twist on it. If you're a person like Janine who makes her own jellies and jams, you know, this would be a great project to put some jelly and jam in. If you make lip balm, if you do any kind of moisturizer, all of those things. Okay, so I've talked my way back to the beginning. I'm going to go ahead and lock that in. We're going to go to our cutting table. And I want to talk about a few things, and we'll take a minute and then we'll come back. What do we need to do? We need to snip right inside of here where I've got these curves. If I had done a curve here and did a curve here, then I'd want to snip those as well. But basically we want to snip inside of this area, inside of this area. You can snip or you can use pinking shears. It's totally up to you. I'm going to go ahead and with my precision scissors, just go in and kind of snip and snip. And I'll do a few of these and then we'll come right back and I'll show you what we're going to do after that. All right, so what I did was go ahead and just use my pinking shears all the way around. And again, this is not a whole lot of bulk here, but I'm going to go ahead and trim off at the bottom. And just make sure you don't trim any more, and don't trim that one area where we have our turning area too. So this is the lining that I'm working on right now. I'm going to go pull out this area. And these are the smaller seams, so I don't really need to do a whole lot. It's just the lining that we want to trim off. Okay, so what we've got now is our lining here and our outer fabric here are two straps that are already sewn all the way around. That's one of the reasons why I love this project, is I don't have to do anything fancy to these straps. We're going to reach inside of our turning area. And this gets a little fiddly, as G and Sherry would say. So we're just going to take our time and pull out. All right, and when I've got one strap in, I'm basically going to reach in to this area here and start pulling and maneuvering. That's where one of the straps is going to be coming through. Can you see how it's getting a little bit shorter there? We're just going to push through. And again, this is another reason why I don't think the SF101 needs to be replaced with a fusible fleece. The fleece is going to really bulk that up, and I just don't think it gave me the results. I love fusible fleece, but I don't really think it's really that much of a requirement for this project. And you can see I've got one strap that's started here and one strap that's started here. You've got a couple options. You can grab the stiletto. I love Philip's stiletto for a project like this, and you can go push through with the flat edge right there. But if you don't have it, your pinking shears work really well too. I'm going to use the pinking shears because I know most of you probably don't have Philip's stiletto. And I'm going to use my belly, and I'm just going to push back and forth. Take your time so that this does not poke through. The pinking shears, this tool, they're both flat enough, not real pointy, not real sharp, that we don't have to worry too much about that poking a hole through. But the last thing you want to do is damage this fabric, because it's kind of hard to fix a strap where you've really pushed and done some damage. And if you did do the pointed, curved top, whichever method besides the straight edge, then pressing here will be a big deal. We're going to poke out the corners because this is a straight edge, but whatever it is, we want that tie to look nice. I moved over to the other side, and we're just going to poke through and keep poking. And I think we'll probably speed this up too. And the next thing after that is we'll start to iron. All right, so we're at the corners. This is where this end of the stiletto is really great to poke out those corners. Again, I'm just going to go ahead and use these pinking shears because that's probably what most of you will have on hand. We've gotten one side all the way out. I'm going to go back and finish that other side. Now you can make this bag reversible if you like. If you make it reversible, then how you close that opening, that turning area, will make a difference. Hand stitching, doing a ladder stitch, you know, is always going to look much better, but you can also use the permanent glue, the permanent tape, any of those things. Just whatever it is, you've got to remember, if you're going to make this reversible, I think this bag would be really cute reversible, you know, depending on the occasion, depending on what you're putting inside. A little stuffed animal, I think, for a little girl would be really nice. Some flowers, a nice pot of something would be really pretty, whether it's a live plant or a fake plant, you know, I think would be really nice. So you decide what it is you do and whether you want to make it reversible or not. Okay, so you can see that corner right there. It's not pushed out so great. I did trim those corners, so you want to make sure that you trim them. And I am going to use the stiletto just because it's going to give me a much better result to go poke out that corner. You can see. I try to use tools that you all have, but this tool is such a cool thing that he's made for me. And we ran out years ago, and then he made some more, and then we ran out again, and I had to have him make some more for me. And we've got some in stock, but not all of them. Okay, so what have we got? We've got our straps, our strap, our lining, and we've got this here, which is our outer fabric. There is the opening for the lining. Okay, so you can see when I pull that, how that gives me a nice closure. You can tuck this way and do a top stitch, which is what I'm gonna do, but you could hand stitch this. You could use that glue, pull your threads, cut your threads, all of that stuff. We're gonna go to the sewing machine, and I'm gonna stitch along the edge, and that'll close this out. And when I started and stopped, I just basically held my needle in place, or my fabric in place, just to lock those in. Take the time to really trim the threads. I'm just doing a quick stitch there. But that's going to close that out. Oops, and look, I didn't start far enough. Okay, we're going to flip this inside where it needs to be. And now I'm going to poke out those 4 corners from the outside, 4 corners from the inside. So the lining fabric and the outer fabric, just pushing through. And then I'm going to grab a tool that I love for a project like this. All right, I'm not going to iron on my table because you don't ever iron on a mat. But I just want to show you hams. So many of you know hams, but this project is perfect for 2 of these thinner hams. So this inside here, going down here, and this inside here. Can you see how when I really pull, and let's go this away. And I think this one is a little bit narrower there, so it fits in nicely on that narrow side. And I'm just going to pull a little bit. And what I'm going to do is take my iron, and we're fiddling a little bit with our straps here to make sure that those seams are out before I put that iron on. I don't want to press in the wrong area. Finger pressing is great to get that process started. Okay, so I'm going to grab my little iron. This little iron is great to go inside this project too. So if you don't have a little iron like this, they're amazing. All right, so I've done the first side. I'm going to flip this over. I'm going to press here. I'm not worrying about the bottom at all. And I don't really love this being on top of my cutting mat because this is hot. So imagine that I'm not working on my cutting mat, okay? Everybody pretend I'm not on my cutting mat. We're just pressing with my fingers here a little bit and just making sure that that all is lined out or puckered out or poked out, whatever you want to call it, finagling it, so that when I do press, that those seams are as wide open as possible. You can see how quick and easy this project would be. And because it's a tie-me bag, I'll show you how to not tie it. We can finish it off if we want to at the top. Shorten it, because these are way too long to have this little guy there, but you can finish it out differently too. All right, so we've done one side, we've done the other side. We're going to do this. I'm going to flip over to the bottom, and you can see how this one is not all the way in. I would take the time to push that in a little bit, but you get the idea. So hams are, to me, great things. You guys that don't have hams, if you're ever out shopping at estate sales, garage sales, that's where you can find a lot of these things. So they're really great for that. Okay, so I do need to go to my iron and press this here and press this here. So I'll pop off camera and come back when this is all pressed, and we'll talk about the next step. All right, so this is the iron that I was talking about, and you can see how nicely this fits right inside. You probably can't see how nicely this fits right inside, but in combination with the hams and with this little iron, it just does such a great job. Right now, this is so hot, this iron is so hot that I can feel it on the top of my hand too. So I love those irons and I love the hams. All right, so here's our little basket that we have. So my tie-me bag, tie-me box, whatever you want to call it, it's a boxed bottom, so that's why I named it tie-me box. But you can see, and you can see Cole here too. She's just taking over my table. Hey Cole, usually she won't stick around when I have the iron going either, so she's got fabric and everything on her, but she just wants her moment in camera. All right, so there is my little bag. So let's put something inside of here. I've got this jar that's pretty big, but when I have this inside of here, you decide, do you want to tie it like this with the straps back and forth showing, you know, do you want to have it hanging down? Do you want to add a little clip, a pin or something on top? There's a lot of, look at, okay, we got to get this. Look at this cat. She's just in heaven. This is what I deal with every day with a kitty. If you have a kitty, then you know. But I have 5 kitties, so they all decide they have to be on. You can now understand why I'm such a horrible sewer. Okay, that's no excuse, but it does not help so much when you have kitties and want to be a part of everything. So back to this. You can decide, do I want to put a pin here? Do I want to put a clip? Do I want to do whatever? Do I want to tie this off? But again, if you wanted to, we could make these straps shorter and have these sewn together, basically like right here, have it this height. The reason why I didn't do that is I don't know what you're going to put in here, and more importantly, I don't know what you're going to take out of here, because right now if I had this sewn together, I would have a hard time getting that out. So I love the fact that this opens up completely, and now I can take that out. Okay, so this guy here, fairly big. Inside of my Easter bunny guy that I have, this is pretty big too. You can see some bath salts. I was going to say, what are they? Bath salts. So if you're doing something like this for a grown-up, you know, the Easter Bunny is terrific. If you're going to do something for a little kid and you wanted to do the Easter Bunny with the ears, you can, with all the little doodads that are available out there, you can put one of these that's already made and ready for you to buy. You can sew that on there. If you don't want to focus on Easter and you just did the regular straps, then you could stick one of these here or here. The nice thing about this, you've got all this area being white for you to embellish. You can also go in and add one of the hair clips if you wanted to, a hair clip here and a hair clip here, but you could also create a face. Cut your nose out of something like this, out of a circle, and then just stitch a circle here. Add some black leather. I had some black, not leather, but faux leather. Cut some strips, real thin strips, and add from your nose. You can add circle eyes that you just stitch with a plus sign and add a little strip and a little strip and a little strip and a little strip for the whiskers. You can add a bunny tail if you want to on the back side. So there's a lot of different ways you can embellish. I will be doing more Easter related kinds of projects with these, so stay tuned. You can comment which one you'd like me to show you and I'll be able to do that. This was done with an elastic, one of those hair little elastics there that they make for little girls. So you can do it that way and then just allow them to kind of flop over. And again, I like to focus on this being the center, but if you wanted to do something where that was the side too, where the gift that you put in there was showing, then flop the ears. But you can also go ahead and tie this. So let's open this one up. So I want to talk about doing the ears, and then I want to talk about making it a little bit taller. So this inside of here, you can do this. And you can see how cute that would be. Just floppy like that. And again, position those in whatever way it is that you want. Okay, so that right there with those floppy ears. And again, for the ears, I just created a pattern out of cardstock and then traced it on. The problem with this is when you go to trace, this ear might not actually match this ear. It's going to move on you, but you know, it's the reality. So if you want me to make a template for these ears, you know, then I will do that and show you a video for that too. All right, so what we're going to do is take a look in our video number 2, how we go from the regular height to the taller height. This is the regular and this is the taller. And then I also want to show you how to do the strap like this. This one is in the works. I thought I had ribbon that would be perfect for this to put in the center. Couldn't find any ribbon, so I've left that one open, but imagine that with a piece of leather or a piece of ribbon in between. How gorgeous would that be? So like this. So we're going to stop for this and we'll take a look at our website and see how this is done. Then we'll come back for video number 2 and I'll show you how to make some adjustments to this so that we can go a little bit further with the Timey box. All right, so my website, winnerdesigns.com. If you head to winnerdesigns.com under the products and you type in tie, T-I-E. In the tie, T-I-E, you're going to see Timey box. And the Timey box is, or Timey bag is the very first one. Well, I have Timey bag on the website. It is the Timey box template. So Timey box, Timey bag, I'll probably go change that so that they're consistent. But if you use the word tie, then you'll see it. And again, it's 2 pieces of templates. You can see from the samples that I showed you today that I have 2 samples that only use the bottom half. So that's a big deal of why I want you to see that. All right, you guys. So like, comment, share, all those good things so that I can continue to do all of these videos for you. I hope you enjoyed this one. Let me know which one is your favorite. And if you want me to do some Easter projects, remember I want to show you how to do in a later video, not the version 2, not the second versions, the part 2, but I'm going to do this project in a later video for you. But if there are other projects that you want me to show you how to do or you want me to focus on, let me know and we will do that. Part 2 is coming up and I'm going to again show you how to adjust the template to do this and adjust the template to do this. So I will see you soon. Thanks for watching.